With the right form of meditation, you can achieve just about anything. Here are 7 meditation techniques that you can use for conquering anxiety. Number 1, Anapanasati. Anapanasati is mindfulness of breath. It's that quintessential form of meditation that most people are already aware of. In Anapanasati meditation, we begin by simply observing the breath moving around the body. This produces feelings of calmness and of inner peace. Once we feel that calmness, we allow the mind to reside inside that sense of calm and inner peace. Now, what this does, during the meditation, it simply makes us feel incredibly relaxed. But B, perhaps more importantly, by familiarizing the mind with that feeling of calmness, we empower the mind to create that same calmness when we need it the most. So, for instance, by practicing mindful breathing, you'll train your mind so that the next time you experience anxiety, your mind can produce a feeling of calmness to counteract it. This will reduce the frequency of your anxiety attacks and give you power to stay calm. Number 2, Vipassana. Vipassana is insight meditation. It's a form of meditation that traditionally is used for gaining insight into the workings of the mind. Now, usually, most people just do a rudimentary form of Vipassana. And what we do is we begin by meditating on the breath again. Then we label what is occurring in the mind and in the body. For instance, let's say that we're meditating on the breath when we experience a thought. We're just going to say, this is just a thought. Similarly with physical sensations, we're just going to say, this is just a physical sensation. And what that does is it makes us less reactive. Now, this is very important for anxiety. And to show why, here's an example. Let's say that you're someone who is prone to anxiety. You begin to experience a tension in your chest. Your mind immediately associates that tension in your chest with anxiety. Then your mind says, I'm experiencing anxiety. Why am I experiencing anxiety? In order to answer that question, your mind then has to produce lots of reasons why you might be anxious. In other words, lots of things that are possibly wrong with your life. And so do you see how it all becomes this snowball rolling downhill, and how a simple tension in the chest can lead to an anxiety attack? Well, Vipassana can stop that. As I mentioned in Vipassana, we simply label what's occurring in the mind. That's just a thought, and that's just a feeling. What this does is it stops that whole snowball from happening. So the tension in the chest doesn't become oh, I'm experiencing anxiety. I wonder why. Here's every reason I have to be anxious. It just stays at there's just a tension in my chest. And so because of that, that's going to stop that snowball from happening and massively reduce your frequencies of panic and anxiety attacks. Number 3, body scan meditation. Body scan meditation is a more modern form of meditation that has become immensely popular since John Kabat-Zinn at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology devised it in the 1970s. In body scan, what we do is we consciously move our awareness from the crown of the head to the feet very gradually. While we're doing this, we're simply observing physical sensations occurring in the body. So why would that help with anxiety? Well, as we touched on when we looked at Vipassana, the mind can be very reactive to what's occurring in the body. And so, by doing this body scan, and by learning to be aware but also accepting of physical sensations, we again reduce that reactivity and thereby reduce our propensity for anxiety attacks. Number 4, somatic meditation. Somatic meditation has become one of the most powerful forms of meditation that I personally use in my meditation teachings on thedailymeditation.com. I found that somatic meditation is wonderful for helping with anxiety, with trauma, and other complications of the mind. So what is somatic meditation? Similar to the body scan, it's a body-focused meditation technique. We begin by becoming aware of the sensations around the skin. From here, we move our awareness gradually deeper inside the body. Eventually, we allow the mind, like a pebble at the bottom of the ocean, to be at complete rest, while physical sensations and bodily functions occur around us. What this does is, again, train the mind to be less reactive to physical sensations, but there is an important difference between this and body scan. The difference is that somatic meditation is entirely bodily led. In body scan, as I mentioned, we're consciously, in other words, mind is leading as we scan the body. But in somatic meditation, we allow the mind to just drop like that pebble at the bottom of the ocean. Mind stops completely while body continues to occur. And that produces a really deep sense of relaxation. And because we allow the body to take over, it also gives the body an opportunity to release anything that it's been storing. Often the body stores emotions. Things like anxiety get contained in the body, and we subconsciously fight the release of those things. When we do somatic meditation, we allow the body to take control while the mind is at complete rest. And so it offers the body an opportune time in which to release anything that it needs to release. Because of that, you might find that when you do somatic meditation, you reach a level of relaxation you've never experienced before. If you'd like to try somatic meditation, you may do it with me on thedailymeditation.com, or I have that meditation and all the other meditations that I've mentioned in this on our YouTube channel. Number 5, loving kindness and other compassion-based meditations. When you're experiencing anxiety as well as other complications of the mind, it's not uncommon to feel alone and unsupported. Even though there might be love and support there for us, it's as though we just block it out when we're going for anxiety or depression or, similar things. Loving kindness meditation, along with other compassion-based meditations such as Karuna and Tonglen, can help us to recognize the support that is there for us. In loving kindness meditation, we essentially visualize the giving and the receiving of love and kindness and compassion. And what that does is it tunes the mind into the support that is being offered to us from other people. And that can help us feel A, supported, and B, less alone. And I'm sure you'll probably agree with me that that can be very helpful for overcoming anxiety. Number 6, fear exposure. Fear exposure is very different to most other forms of meditation, and certainly very different from anything else that I've mentioned so far in this article list. So, fear exposure is based on one of the more modern forms of therapy. So over the last couple of over the last couple of decades, we've witnessed a rise in fear exposure as a way to overcoming phobias and other things that make us fearful and anxious. For instance, fear exposure is very common for helping people overcome fear of public speaking, fear of flying, and so on. What it is a process in which we gradually increase our exposure to the things that make us fearful or anxious. To give you an example, consider the fear of flying. if we were to approach the fear of flying from a fear exposure standpoint, what we would do is this. We would begin by giving ourselves the minimal amount of exposure to flying. So perhaps you might looking in a magazine at pictures of airplanes. You then gradually increase that exposure. Maybe the next time you watch a video of somebody flying, then perhaps you drive by an airport, then you go to the airport, then you book your ticket on the flight, and so on. And so it's gradually increasing our exposure to the thing which we're fearful of. What that does is it trains the mind to stay calm at increasing levels of exposure to that fear. Now, we can do this as a form of meditation. And this is something that I've done working with many of my clients who do have fears and phobias. So essentially, we do fear exposure meditation the same way we do other fear exposure. Again, fear of flying, you're just going to visualize seeing a plane. You're going to visualize being at the airport and so on. So you're still doing that exposure to the fear, you're just doing it as a visualization meditation instead. And this is one meditation that I have a guided version of on our YouTube channel. Finally, number 7, personal strengths. This is one of my personal favorite forms of meditation. So what personal strengths is that we basically meditate on our personal strengths. So for instance, let's say if I'm experiencing a moment of weakness, maybe I'm feeling anxious or depressed or whatever, those other human conditions that we all are susceptible to. What I'll do is I'll meditate and I'll bring to mind my strengths as a person. So, for instance, I might remind myself that I'm a very compassionate person, or that I have routinely, through my life, been through a lot of trouble, and I've always found an inner strength to power myself through, and so on. So what we're doing is we're meditating and we're bringing to mind the strengths that we have as human beings, and that empowers us. Because it stops us from seeing ourselves as these weak victims to anxiety and stuff like that. It trains the mind to say, hey, you know what? I've got this. And I know I've got this because here are the strengths that I've already shown that I have in my life. So instead of thinking, well, how am I going to get through this anxiety? You're going to show your mind, I'll tell you. Here in mind, I'll tell you how I'm going to get through this anxiety the way I did before. I'm going to use the strengths that I know that I've got because I've had them throughout my life. And so what you're doing is you're saying to your mind, look, I'm a strong, empowered person with these strengths. And because of that, I know that I am strong enough to get through this moment of anxiety. And those are 7 of my top meditation techniques for anxiety. There's a ton of different meditations that you can use for anxiety, but these 7 are some of my favorites. Now, if there is one thing that I would like you to take away from this video, it's this. Instead of thinking anxiety helps with meditation, you see what I did wrong there? Instead of thinking meditation helps with anxiety and just thinking, well, if I do mindful breathing, that will help with anxiety, go deeper. Go deeper. Examine your anxiety with a curious mind. Anxiety is a lazy word because people experience it in different ways. What is anxiety to you? Is it that you just get a generalized sense of anxiety? Is it that you get specific physical sensations? Is it that you experience thoughts? In which case, what type of thoughts? Are they thoughts of people judging you or thoughts of the end of the world? What is your anxiety? Be curious. Examine it. Once you can see the true nature of your anxiety and how it manifests, because you've looked with that curiosity, then say, well, okay, this is how my anxiety manifests, so what is the best meditation for that? And with that, you're going to see, well, if you have anxiety based on the idea of everyone judging you, then logically, the best form of meditation for that is loving kindness and other compassion meditations that train you to see the love and kindness that is there in your life. Or if you have all these bodily sensations when you experience anxiety, then you're going to know to do somatic or body scan and to observe those sensations and learn to be less reactive to them. Go deeper than anxiety. What is your anxiety? How does your anxiety manifest? And what meditation works for your anxiety? That is how you truly conquer anxiety with meditation. And I'm here to help you. I hope you found this helpful. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe. And if you would like my help learning meditation and conquering anxiety, book a session with me on thedailymeditation.com. Thank you.